All right, let's just jump right into it. Welcome back to The Explainer. Today, we're tackling something I know pretty much every athlete who squats has struggled with at some point. You know the exact feeling, right? You unrack the bar, start your descent, and bam, right at parallel, you're stuck. Your chest dips forward, your lower back kind of rounds, and the whole rep just feels messy. But then, you use that little magic trick. You slide a couple of small plates or maybe a fancy heel wedge right under your heels, and suddenly, it's literally like a cheat code. You're dropping effortlessly into this deep, upright, beautiful squat. Feels like magic. But what if I told you that this exact magic trick is actually sabotaging your long-term progress? Today, we're unpacking a really incredible breakdown by Moritz Wilke. It's what he calls error number 3 in the weight room, the heel wedge illusion.
So the underlying logic here usually comes down to this one phrase: with a wedge, I go deeper. You hear this in gyms literally all over the world. And the craziest part? It's absolutely true. You do go deeper. I mean, we have to validate that gym bro logic for a second, because physically, the wedge absolutely lets you hit that lower position. But here's the massive catch we need to talk about right now. While you're hitting that nice depth, the wedge isn't actually fixing your squat at all. It's really just hiding your mobility bottleneck. Think of the wedge like a giant rug, and you're just sweeping all your ankle mobility issues right under it.
So, let's get into section 1, the illusion of the heel wedge. We really need to figure out if you're using this thing as a tool or as a permanent crutch. Moving on to section 2, what the wedge really does. Let's break down the biomechanics of this.
Okay, so here is the exact chain of events happening in your body. First up, the path becomes shorter. When you elevate your heel on a wedge or a plate, you're artificially pre-flexing your foot. What this actually means in practical terms is that your ankle joint has to flex way less to hit the exact same perceived depth in your squat. You're basically giving your ankle joint a massive head start. It just doesn't have to work as hard, bend as far, or stretch anywhere near as much. And because your ankle just got that artificial head start, we see the second effect. The knee can now travel much further forward over the toes without needing crazy ankle mobility. This little shortcut is exactly why you can suddenly drop into that super deep squat without your upper body totally tipping forward like a folding chair. The wedge completely alters the geometry of the movement so your torso stays perfectly upright. But here comes the harsh truth. The third thing that happens is the calf remains short. Because your heel is artificially lifted up and the ankle never has to fully flex, your calf muscle is never getting fully lengthened under load. Meaning, the actual bottleneck, those tight calves and stiff ankles, is never actually challenged. The root cause of your immobility is just completely untouched. Actually, as Moritz Wilke points out in the source material, it means you're training around the limitation, not on it. The cause stays put, and what started as a helpful aid just silently morphs into a permanent problem.
Which brings us to section 3, the needle wall test. It's time to diagnose your baseline.
If you want to know for sure if you're guilty of masking your own mobility, we've got to test it. Here's exactly how you do it. And I want you to kind of mentally walk through this movement with me right now. Step 1, take your shoes off. Stand barefoot facing a wall and place your big toe about 10 centimeters, so roughly 4 inches away from the baseboard. Step 2, slowly push your knee forward, trying to physically touch the wall. And step 3, this is the absolute most important rule. Keep your heel firmly planted on the floor. If your knee touches the wall and your heel stays flat, awesome, your mobility is generally sufficient. But if your heel lifts off the floor before your knee even grazes that wall, the bottleneck is right there at the bottom of your kinetic chain. It's a physical restriction. It's not bad technique, it's not a weak core, it is 100% your ankle.
Now wait, before you walk away from the wall, I have to emphasize a really crucial diagnostic detail here. You absolutely must test both sides. Why? Well, because as the analysis highlights, the difference between your left and right side actually reveals way more than just the absolute measurement itself. Say your left knee easily taps the wall at 10 centimeters, but your right heel just aggressively lifts off the ground at that exact same distance, you've got a major asymmetry. And let's be real, loading a massively heavy barbell on top of a glaring asymmetry, yeah, that's just a recipe for disaster.
All right, moving to section 4, the biggest fallacy. We really need to rethink mobility aids.
Notice the stark contrast we're making here. We've got this concept of using the wedge as a permanent state versus using it as a tool. Remember that quote we started with? With a wedge, I go deeper. Okay, true, but extreme depth was never supposed to be the primary goal if the cost is completely ignoring a physical limitation. The completely wrong approach is relying on this wedge as your one and only permanent answer to a mobility issue. If you're using it for every single set of every single exercise, it's just a crutch, period.
The correct approach, though, is using the wedge purely as a situational tool. It makes absolute sense to use it for your really heavy working sets, where the main goal is maximal muscle stimulation, or, if you have anatomically short calves that literally cannot change. The goal is to use the tool when you need it, but you absolutely have to work on the root cause in parallel.
So that brings us to Section 5, what you can change. Let's look at the 4-step protocol.
So how do we actually go about fixing this? Let's walk directly through Moritz-Wilke's action plan. Step 1, use the wedge, but in a targeted way. Save it strictly for your heaviest working sets. You really shouldn't be using it for every single warm-up rep. Step 2, build in flat sets. Do your lighter sets, your warm-ups, or those back-off sets completely flat on the floor. This actually forces your ankle mobility to adapt and do the work under manageable loads. Step 3, mobilize your calves and ankles. And the secret sauce here is frequency over duration. Mobilizing briefly but doing it regularly is just so much more effective than forcing yourself through some rare, painful, hour-long marathon stretching session on a Sunday. And finally, step 4, seek professional help if you need it. If you did that wall test and found some glaring asymmetry between your left and right side that just will not budge no matter what you do, go get it checked out by a pro.
As we wrap up this breakdown, I want to leave you with this final, kind of provocative thought to chew on. Take a really close look at the equipment you're dragging into the gym every single day. Ask yourself, is your tool genuinely helping you build a stronger, more capable body? Or is it a crutch that's actively holding you back from fixing your true weaknesses? I mean, it is incredibly easy to just grab the wedge and chase that instant gratification of a super deep squat. But true strength, that's about eliminating your weak links, not just finding clever ways to hide them.
All right, that covers our analysis of Part 3 of Moritz-Wilke's incredible 4-part series on weight room errors. And trust me, you are absolutely going to want to stick around for the upcoming Part 4, because we're going to dive into the massive error of ignored calf length. If you want to jump ahead and get the complete, comprehensive analysis for strength athletes right now, you can find the whole thing in Volume 15, titled The Strength Athlete's Foot. You can grab that, along with a highly recommended, totally free guide on the 5 biggest lies about healthy shoes over at meisterwissen.shop. So, check your ego, maybe ditch the wedge on your warm-ups this week, and start building true mobility from the ground up. I'll catch you on the next explainer.